there's a foundation there of accomplishment now for him where everything else was failure. You know, he was a kid that had so much potential. I think for him, having gone through the program, graduated from the program, he also graduated, of course, from high school, it gives him at least something he can look back on and say, I accomplished that, and I did it on my own. So it's a stronger foundation for him to work with.
With the family program and the parent program, we've been able to be involved in the healing process. We just didn't send Bentley off to have her fixed. We realized that we really are the beginning of this whole deal, that much of the responsibility lay right in my lap, and that I had to do as much changing as Bentley did for the whole entire situation to improve. If she came right back into our home without us doing any work, then it would have been a disaster. Bentley wouldn't stand a chance, and now there's hope because we're all involved in this situation.
Jason probably wouldn't be living in our home, whereas we know that we are going to get that back now. We have a hope that, and I can see that we're going to have our family relationship back, and we know that if he hadn't come here, that he wouldn't have been part of our family. And we don't know what the end result of that would have been, but it wouldn't have been a good result.
You know, one time we were sitting out on the deck at the back here, and she was talking to me, and it was just one-on-one, and she was really had reached her low point and said, you know, Dad, you don't understand, you know, I just hate everything about myself. That is an unbelievably difficult thing for a dad to hear, and you know, I was just shattered. And I'm just so thankful that, you know, we kind of reached that low point, and now I can see the progress, and I can see the restoration of, you know, her character and her whole being, and her, you know, greater self-esteem and so on, that we've kind of come away from that low point.
For me, it was the greatest thing that could ever happen to me, even though I spent the first week crying about it and wishing I was home. It was the greatest thing that ever happened.
You know, I didn't know there was a God until I went to Heartlight. And I didn't have a heart until I went I didn't know I had a heart until I went to Heartlight.
I absolutely loved. If I can think back on my time in Heartlight versus basically every other experience in my life, that was probably the one where I grew the most as a person and really got to understand me and who I am, what I'm capable of.
John, we've noticed that we're going to have a relationship with him now. He's opened up. He can talk to us. He can talk. I've got a relationship with him, and before that, he was closed up, and we've got some hope. We've got some hope. We think he's got some tools and resources. During this process, I've learned how to love a child. I've learned how to love a child. That's been difficult. And he's awesome. He's an awesome kid. He's my son, too.
And now I would say he's very proud of himself, knowing that he went and did something really hard, and he succeeded, and he's out on his own now, a year and a half, holding a steady job.
I'm married to a wonderful man that just, every day I look at him and want to marry him again. He's just, he's a wonder. I didn't think I'd marry anyone. I didn't think anyone could handle me, you know. I'm tough. I'm still tough, even after Heartlight, I'm tough.
As men, we believe that it's weak to ask for help, and it's actually strength to ask for help. And I think that the greatest strength is when you realize that you have to reach out and seek God's help. And it's easy to get involved in our jobs and, you know, just keep our head down, you know, plowing and not look up, because it takes our mind off of things. And as a man, I would urge other men to stop, refocus on what's the most important in our jobs, away from our jobs and into our families, so that you can take the time to investigate whatever residential program is right for your child or your family, and then after you've done that investigative work, don't be afraid to pull the trigger. I mean, if I look back at anything now, what I might have done is done it earlier, a year earlier. If I would have really believed that it was okay to admit the weakness and realize that we had to get help before it even progressed one more hour, was to find the right one and be willing to admit failure and do it, because it's the fastest, most honest way to recovery for everyone.
Because the transforming power of God's love is the only thing that's going to help any of us through this struggle. But that's what I would say. Men, to open up your hearts and just put the pride down.
You know, we're supposed to be at home. You know, our families are supposed to be together. I mean, kids are supposed to grow up at home. It's the way things are supposed to be. So even kind of coming to grips with that notion that it's not working at home, and that a solution like residential treatment is something you need to look at, is just a bitter pill. It was a tough one for me to swallow. I mean, I fought with that, wrestled with it. I talked to Bentley about it. I tried to talk her into, like, you know, come on, Bentley, you don't want to do this. Don't you want to stay at home with us? I mean, we can do this here. We can work this out here. I think my advice would be is maybe to give up on that prideful notion that we can fix things, that we don't need some help, that we don't need something that's maybe a little extraordinary, that we're willing to tell people that we come into contact with, you know, we had some things in our house that was such that our child was going down a path that was leading to self-destruction, and we had to do something about it. And just to get that prideful nature, I think, in men, that sometimes prevents us from doing the tough thing. But I will tell you this, is, you know, I'm sure it was hard on old Bent. But it was, you know, in some ways, the worst day and the best day. To come and leave her here. But also coming back is realizing when I hit that cattle guard now, I know this is a good place.